For starters, happy Mother's Day everybody. Hope you all enjoyed the day because I know I did. On the same day that you celebrate the best woman in your life, we also had two of the best PWHL games. I'm going to start off with the longest game in history because that's the one that was finished first. Although ironically, I thought that the game that started later might have ended first, given how long the first game was taking and the fact that they had 4 overtimes. Guess what? Montreal finally won a playoff game. They have to be super grateful that they did. Because if they didn't, I just can't imagine them coming back after losing the first 2 games of the series at home again. Can you believe that they finally broke the curse of not scoring a goal at home after over 2 months? Kristen O'Neill did exactly that when she scored under 3 minutes into the first period. This was the first goal that she scored with the team since December 30th, can you believe that? On the play, Ottawa's defense was out-hustled by O'Neill, but I think Gwyneth Phillips may want that one back. After the first period, the momentum looked like it was shifting towards Ottawa. However, Laura Stacey did extend the lead to 2 on a shot that looked pretty savable in my opinion. Ottawa was getting so many chances, but Debienne was awesome. Ottawa even had a goal called back for goalie interference. Did you think that was the right call? In the third, Ottawa was definitely the team that had all the chances. As I was watching, even myself started to feel nervous for Montreal. But it wasn't until there was under 5 minutes left when the goals started to happen. The first one was scored on a point shot by Aneta Teralova through traffic that snuck through. And then I was thinking, okay, that's one, but I think Montreal can hold on, right? Debienne's been great. But then guess what? Ottawa pulls the goalie and you know what happens. With just 41 seconds left, guess who ties the game up? Brianne Jenner. Not only did she tie the game, but it was from a similar spot that she scored in the last game. At this point, I thought it was all over for Montreal because going into this game, Ottawa only has lost 1 time whenever Jenner scores a goal. And what do you know, we head to overtime again in Montreal's Game 2, exactly a year after the previous time. Before it began, I was kind of hoping that it would end fairly quickly so we wouldn't have this game still going on when the Toronto and Minnesota game's starting. Ottawa continued to dominate the first 2 overtime periods, which seemed like chance after chance. They even managed to get a 5-on-3 power play, and at that point I was thinking, okay, it's gotta be done here, right? I know that's not exactly the correct attitude most people have, but whenever you get a power play in overtime, you always expect to score, and those were the most intense. Especially because typically it's very hard to get a power play in overtime because the refs don't want to be the ones that decide the game. There were many plays that I saw that I think definitely would have been called penalties if it was still in regulation. The Victoire fans were even going crazy, reacting to some of the supposed missed calls, if that's what you want to say. But anyway, not only did Ottawa get a 5-on-3 power play, Montreal did too. If you remember last year, Montreal actually got a 5-minute power play in overtime after Lexi Agia was ejected from the game. When this happened, I was like, okay, you've got to be able to do it now. Because if not, I was fearing that it was going to be another choke for sure. Fun fact, there were actually more penalties in overtime than there were in regulation, which you never see in the playoffs. I don't remember when it was, but I do remember that Alexandra Labelle had a great chance in overtime that went off the post, in a similar type of way that Michaela Grant-Mentis hit the post in the 3rd period, which if she scored there, it would have extended their lead to 3. It wasn't until the 3rd overtime though that the momentum really started to shift Montreal's way, it felt. But even 3 overtimes wasn't enough, we needed 4! I remember when time was ticking down in the 4th overtime, I was even starting to get ready to text my family that they were about to head into a 5th overtime. But we didn't need it, as with about 4.5 minutes to go in quadruple overtime, Catherine Dubois finally ended the game. By the time this game was over, the Scepters and Frost game was already over halfway through. It was reported that from the opening faceoff was dropped, this game took a total of 5 hours and 34 minutes to complete. Montreal did the least that they needed to do for sure. Can't afford to lose the first 2 games of a series at home because when you do that, and there is one thing that I want to congratulate Coach Corey Chevry on. Last year we had a triple overtime game, this year we had a quadruple overtime game. And you didn't overplay your stars! Even though they weren't played excessively this time, it was still a ridiculously long game, and I think the players are going to go to Ottawa in Game 3 and be quite tired. I know Game 3 is going to be a super crazy one, I expect the Ottawa fans to be quite loud. My early prediction for this one is that a goal is going to take place in the first 5 minutes again. If I have to make a guess on who will get that first goal, for Ottawa, I'm going to say that Emily Clark will do so. I think this is going to be her time. If Montreal gets it, I'm going to take a bold guess and say that Dara Gregg will be the one to get it. Hopefully with her brother Ridley of the Ottawa Senators in attendance. But anyway, I hope you all had a great Mother's Day. How did you feel about this game? Don't be afraid to leave a comment to let me know what was going on in your mind. Were you super exhausted once it was over? In her post-game interview, I think that Catherine Dubois said exactly what we were thinking. Roll that clip.
How do you feel? Oh, I'm just happy we got